The last checkpoint is in captivity. The galaxy is at
Hello and welcome to GameGazm, I'm Brent.
And I'm Dan.
And what are we looking at today, Dan?
Well, we're looking at Here They Lie, which is a VR horror game from Santa Monica Studio.
God of War Santa Monica Studio.
The very same.
Sexual. Welcome to Here They Lie, a mysterious horror romp from Santa Monica Studios. Right as it boots, you get a cool city-style menu, and starting a new game uncomfortably sinks you into the ground.
You start the game by getting on a train after a brief chat with this lady. She gets all up in your personal space, and in VR it's really weird. The image you're seeing really doesn't do this feeling justice. Those of you that have experienced VR, you know exactly what I mean. And yes, I found it difficult not to pick at her cleavage.
When it gives you controlled, I was worried. As this is a free-moving first-person experience, it can give you the wildest motion sickness. So the developers have given you a few ways to handle this. In one of the modes, the right stick causes the camera to fade out and change the angle at 45-degree increments. This means you don't have to worry too much about dizzying spinning. Of course, there is also a mode that disables that, and you can move as freely as you would in any other first-person game. Although whilst you turn, the game will shrink your peripheral vision. Think of it like a black border comes around your eyes and shrinks it down to the centre. Trust me, this is designed so it does stop you from instantly vomiting. It takes a while to get used to in either mode, but it made me feel quite ill. But for the sake of science, I persevered.
There are other small adjustments with the controls to try to make it feel as natural as possible. If you're walking forward and you turn your head to look at something, your body slowly corrects automatically to walk in that direction. Not always ideal, but it does help. The main thing is to take it slow.
Whilst moving through the train, there are these burning embers, and they literally made me want to wave my hand in front of my face to waft them out of the way. At one point, it looked like one of them went in my mouth, and that was really odd.
There are some jumpy, scary moments, but for the most part, you roam around and pick up story bits. It's a horror walking sim, and there's not much more to it than that. I feel somewhat disappointed that they didn't seize the opportunity to utilise VR more. It felt like I could easily just play the game without the VR at all, and probably have a better time with it if I'm completely honest.
The design of it is bland, monochrome and bleak. Some areas are super dark too, and it took me a dumb amount of time to realise that you can use a flashlight by pressing the circle button. Thanks for dropping me a hint there, Santa Monica. You know, a small on-screen prompt would have helped. But no, I stood in the dark for an uncomfortable amount of time, thought the game crashed. Unbelievable. Walking around this dingy shithole might have been more interesting if some stuff happened. Sure, it's unnerving at times, but as a game, it's nothing to shout about. Walking simulators are something you either love or fucking hate with a fiery passion and wish all of them would rot in a pit of unimaginative, plague-ridden dead Microsoft executives.
However, the feeling of being in the environment is still there and good. Small touches that VR bring naturally are cool, and seeing your own shadow is a very odd experience indeed in VR. As well as descending stairs and reading notes, VR really does make these silly things way cooler. But, at its core, Here They Lie just isn't a great example of a VR game. It's a walking simulator that is compatible with the headset, and the graphics are probably the worst I've seen for a VR game. The pixelation is fucking atrocious.
Now, as this is a VR game for the PSVR, there are some more problems. When I stand still, the camera still wobbles. Even if my head is perfectly still, it's almost like there's an animated sway, and God, that's off-putting.
Overall, the game is as boring to play as it is to look at, and I would highly recommend steering clear of it. It's only £15 on the PSN store, but I'd rather go down the pub to be honest, giving this a GameGazm 4. It really doesn't do anything for VR, doesn't at all make you think that VR is a good way to play games, and in fact, if this wasn't a VR game, I probably would have scored it higher, as you wouldn't have the awkwardness that comes with the motion sickness and really bad visuals.
It made me realise that maybe VR has its limitations and is probably only going to be suited to very samey simulations where you're sat in a vehicle of some sort. Hopefully things like this will get better, but if this is any indication as to how Resident Evil 7 will play in VR, well then I can already say with confidence that it can fuck right off. I do realise that everyone is different and motion sickness can vary from person to person, but really when you're limiting your audience this much, VR can only be a bad thing. At this point in time.
Why would I want to play Resi 7 in a blurry pixelated mess when I can just play it on my HD TV? Anyway, I digress. Here They Lie is a good attempt, but it feels like it's catering to the fact that they are constantly trying to limit your motion sickness. and it's very difficult to get immersed when all you want to do is leave because you're about to vom. Seriously, if you want to try this game, make sure you have a bucket on standby if you are at all susceptible to motion sickness. Just go and get one from KFC, and then see it all again in reverse.
Sometimes the darkness is there for a reason.
And that was Here They Lie. Not a great advert for VR horror then so far.
No. I mean, I went into this thinking, like, you know what? This is going to be good. It's Santa Monica Studios. They've been obviously, like, they focused on a lot on people's comfort while playing. So there's lots of cool little techniques there to limit the motion sickness.
Keep the vomit comet down.
Exactly. And I felt that it was a really good attempt. But it feels like I said, it's trying too hard to not make you sick, and it just feels like the game just like suffers from.
Well, when you put limitations on like that, it's going to affect the gameplay. It has to.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to get around that. They've got to find the balancing point. I would say they haven't got long either.
No,
really,
no.
to sort this all out.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are some PSVR games out there that are absolutely phenomenal and utilise the VR experience to its full extent. But Here They Lie felt like it fell short, and it felt like it was just something you've played before, but you can do it with the headset on. Yeah. So it doesn't really do anything for VR.
And such lo-fi graphics as well. It seems. I know the processing power needs to make up for the fact that it's doing this amazing immersive experience, but it just seems too.
Well, as well as other experiences on the VR are way better graphically. Like you can actually, you can see how good certain PSVR games look, and then when you compare it to something like Here They Lie, it just looks like a bag of shit. Yeah. So, not great in the visual department.
Better get back to God of War 4. God of 4.
It's going to be a running joke, that, isn't it? Anyway, that's all the time we've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave us a like and also subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I've been Bren.
I've been Dan.
And we've been GameGazm.